already. So yes, it has been the last few months of planning this conference. I think it was already given birth to round about December last year, and we thought that we will have it round about April. Then April was too close, so we moved to June. Then June came too fast, and then in August, so finally I think we thought we can no longer postpone it. So what I'm supposed to talk about is why this conference, and now you say it's not about me, but then I put my story. But probably it's because my story could be like the story of many of us here this morning. So I don't know how many of us did majored in chemistry at high school, but I did almost physics, chemistry, mathematics, additional mathematics. So yes, I'm a chartered accountant, but I never knew about accounting until my first year at university. So I studied science. So I was very, very familiar with what do you call that nice table? It's not about yeah. So all of us know that table. So if I close my eyes, I can almost see that table. So I don't know if it was because I was passionate about it or was bitten to know about it, but I kind of memorized the table. So maybe most of us memorized the table. And I only remember like iron is Fe or something like that. And then there was some funny element who started with P. I don't know if it was potassium, but then the symbol of it was K. I don't know, one of them was like that. But when I remember those, when we learned those things, it was like, it's not tangible. I cannot touch it. There is no asset there. So I'm sure that all of us kind of thought that it's a pie in the sky, so it's not real. And that is probably when I heard about green hydrogen. So I was appointed by His Excellency to this position a few months before I started. And then maybe 2 or so months before I started, an investor had a call with me because I was kind of starting to have conversation. And they told me, no, Namibia is ideal for green hydrogen, and we would like to talk about green hydrogen. And they wanted to do a presentation. I said, well, stop this lorry for now. Before we go on with the green hydrogen and what it is, tell me, hydrogen, what? No, you know, water, yes, it's made up of H2O, yes, and we can split it. That is real, yes. Okay? So anyway, they took me first through the story of apparently what you need to do to get green or to get hydrogen out of the water. So that table that I did in grade 12 or standard 10 was actually real. So then we had the story, and I'm sure that many of us are still probably at that place. Some of us could be hearing about hydrogen for the first time, maybe you're online. I think I've moved on a little bit, but I'm at a level where I think my colleague Alvin Bota will say, I just know enough to be dangerous. How many of you are at that stage? You just know enough to be dangerous. Whether it is dangerous positively or it is dangerous in a negative manner, you just know enough to be dangerous. So what is the purpose of this conversation? The purpose of this conversation is probably, hopefully at the end, I don't know if it is Dr. Grant or it is somebody else who knows more. They will probably give us a certificate of Green Hydrogen 101 after this conference, or maybe this is what they call a master class. So let us where we are. So quickly, why are we as the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board involved in this conference? When I was appointed, there's about 8 tasks that I was mandated with by His Excellency. And one of those tasks was in collaboration with, working with other stakeholders, make sure that you promote a collaborative role between the public and the private sector in order to stimulate economic growth for Namibia. So that is one of our mandates. And of course, when green hydrogen came up and when the Economic Association and the Hans Seidel Foundation approached us to host this conversation, we believe that this is definitely one of those areas where we need public and private collaboration and also having civil society. And definitely this is one area where we have seen international collaboration, local collaboration, private sector collaboration coming together to build this industry. And looking at where we have started, I think this is something that the government has done excellently as a start, and we are told that has got great potential for Namibia. And with that potential, we know or we understand Namibia has got great assets, whether it is renewable assets whether it is access to the sea, whether it is large tracts of land, whether it is our human capital resources, and we need to make sure that we harness those resources to bring about economic development for our nation and to make sure that we tackle the triple challenges of inequality, unemployment, and poverty that are facing us. So what do we want to achieve during this conference? Number one, hopefully at the end of the conference, we will no longer think about green or hydrogen as just one of the elements of something, but something that can actually be a solution to the challenges that we face, whether they are economic challenges, social challenges, or even more, whether they are about our carbon challenges on the earth. We want to identify the potential opportunities and risks. Somebody said to me yesterday, many times when we bring up a subject, we talk about all the brilliant things that can happen, but sometimes we forget the downside and the risks. And if we do that, then somebody else will highlight those ones, and it can come and overwhelm the positives. So we need to acknowledge that with every area of development, there are downsides, there are risks, and we need to be prepared to mitigate those risks. And then we need to understand the market. What are the market opportunities for green hydrogen? And what is the regulatory framework that we need to have in place if we need to, for this industry to succeed? Then we need to understand what are the human resource requirements and infrastructure. A conversation that we'll have is, this is something that will be developed around Windhoek, a town with a population of about 30,000 currently, and we understand that with the first project that is being discussed, just during construction, there will be about 15,000 jobs. What does that mean for Windhoek? What does that mean for the Claras region? And what does that mean for Namibia? And of course, infrastructure, ports, pipes, and others. What does that mean? And then financing. There is huge financing. The cost that we are talking about just for one project is probably equal to or close to Namibia's GDP. So where will we get the funding? What are the funding requirements? Of course, with that requirement comes opportunities for the financiers. And then what are the investment opportunities? Yes, there is funding, of course, equity funding, but there is also, debt funding, but there is also equity and returns that can be earned on that funding. And then we need to identify, and maybe this is again one of the things that we have been specifically as NIPDB been tasked by the cabinet of the government of Namibia, is to make sure of 2 or 3 things. Number one, if we are going to have a green hydrogen sector, I think Jason at the beginning has indicated that sometimes in Africa we have got resources, they get extracted, values added somewhere else, and we kind of buy that value back at half cost. So what we have been tasked as the NIPDB to do is about 3 things. Number one is identify the skills, make sure that we do not stand in the way of the skills that need to be imported into Namibia. However, make sure that we develop capacity in Namibia for the human resource capitals that is required. That's number one. Number 2, we've got MSMEs. If we want to create real jobs, MSMEs stand a chance of creating more jobs. And therefore, there is multiplier effect for every project. Make sure that Namibian MSMEs are identified and that they are capacitated and supported to benefit from green hydrogen. And then number 3 is the value chain. From the beginning or cradle to the grave, like they call it, how can we make sure that Namibians are able to participate and that the local communities and the local private sector can benefit from this industry? Hopefully, that is one of my last sessions. Let's just look at my last slide. So what are the envisaged key outcomes, which is my last slide? Hopefully, after these deliberatives and after these good dialogues that we are going to have, we will all have a better understanding. We will put together a document of saying, yes, this is what the conference says. As government, we need to consider. As the private sector, we need to consider. As civil society or international community, this is what we need to consider if we need to make sure that we have developed an industry that is sustainable, that is stable, that is contributing to Namibia, to the livelihood of Namibians, and that is taking off, of course, not too fast so that our mistakes are minimized, but also not we fail to reap the benefits faster. So with that, once again, you have been welcome to the conference. I'm looking forward to having great conversation with you. Thank you for everybody that is participating in person and also everybody that has joined us online. Thank you very much.